Welcome back to the Ozark podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Veet, and I am joined by the finest gentleman this side of the Mississippi, here deep in the Ozarks. We've got another episode for you guys, and we're testing something new. We're gonna go back and review some of our recent episodes, pull out some of the highlights. Daniel, you've been chopping up the reels and getting just really the best pieces out of each episode. Some of them controversial. And some of them just good information. So we thought it'd be cool to kind of dive into some of those topics a little bit deeper because there's some meat still on the bone that we didn't pick all the way off.
Yeah, and I'm not purposely, just caveat, I'm not purposely picking the controversial ones because I just don't know in this world if they're controversial or not. But they are fun to make, and I'm glad that they've benefited some of our guests so far. So
absolutely. So obviously we have me, Daniel, Kyle.
Yep, anything to get Daniel on the mic, I'm a fan of.
They keep dragging me on here.
Even if it is just a new format, kind of test the water scenario. I'm a big fan.
And we've talked about too, Daniel's kind of, he's our layman's perspective and people who may not be as deep into
AKA, I don't know anything.
That's not, see, you said that, not me. But just to kind of ask a perspective that maybe is different from like what Kyle and I see and think as guys who are out in it all the time and, just talking with guides and stuff like that. So recent 3 episodes, we talked with Ben Woodard. That was our most recent. We're going to start there. Before that, we talked with Clayton Eliason of Red's Guide Service, talking smallmouth. Ben, we talked the sulfur hatch.
Yep.
And then before that, we talked with Peyton Ussery, Big Pete. Shout out Big Pete.
Catching crappie,
and a little bit of taxidermy and some
beekeeping,
honeybee rescue.
What was it? A purist?
He's an apurist.
Apurist.
Yeah. So we'll go through those. We've got some like a highlight from each one of those, and then we'll just kind of give our perspective on it. And
do you want to tease at all what's coming up? Because I like that.
I'm going to tease, like upcoming episodes or the story that you're going to tell about the fish you caught.
Yes.
I was thinking upcoming episodes. You could tease the fish story.
I'm going to tease the fish and then the upcoming episodes. So my friend Kyle here has done it. He did something really impressive last weekend, this most recent last weekend, and he caught a really big fish, and that's all I'm going to say.
We'll leave it at that.
And now that that's out of the way, we're going to kind of tease. We don't normally do this. We haven't done this before, but we're going to tease some upcoming episodes that
because we've been in fishing a lot.
And it's just something. Yeah, it's something to look forward to. And a name you guys might recognize. I'm going to say it.
Oh, you're going to name drop.
I'm going to say it.
Say it.
I might bleep it out in post.
I'm super excited about this, and so name dropping because I'm excited, and I think you guys will be excited too. Been talking with Tim Ernst, and we're going to get him on, and that's just a name to me. Growing up in the Ozarks, it's like you hear that and you think it's synonymous with capturing the beauty of those.
Oh, for sure.
So that should be a good one, and we've got a few more coming up too, but that's the only one I'm going to drop right now. If you guys this would be fun. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to ask them, feel free to reach out to us. You can
That's a good idea.
Message us on Instagram or Facebook or email. And if there's anything specific, we'll probably include your question as long as it's not like stupid. But yeah, just reach out and let us know. I think that'd be kind of cool to do. But should we start?
Let's do it.
Let's try it out. So we've got a clip here from Ben's episode. Hopefully this works on the first try. Let me start it back at the beginning. We're gonna let it play and then we'll talk about it.
You want to give some context real quick? Ben's episode was about what?
Yeah, so Ben Woodard of Woodard Fly Fishing. He is a guide over on the White, and specifically we wanted to do an episode with him on bug season, and he was like, well, caddis hatch is kind of pretty much gone at this point, or fading at least. And he was like, what if we talked about the sulfur hatch, which is a type of mayfly that is kind of a relatively newer hatch, is what it sounds like over on the White, which is cool in itself. That's just like there's like a kind of a new bug over there, and the fish are keyed in on it, and it's great fishing, as Kyle will explain.
Yeah,
here in a second.
Yeah.
So here's a clip from Ben.
Last year's cast hatch was like 45 days long. The years before that, 60 days long. And the sulfur hatch was good as well. During this period of time, in that second week of May to that first week of June where we are now, there's a lot of mayflies moving in the water. Now, this type of mayfly is a newer hatch on this river. 3 years ago, it was probably 10, 12 days long. Last year, it was 30 days.
So you're looking at this year and going, this year's going to be really great.
Correct.
Whoa.
And was it, Kyle?
It's weird hearing my voice on playback through my ears from an episode we've already done.
Was the fishing really great?
Yeah, the fishing was really great. Really great. What do you want to know?
Oh, man.
You want the full story of the full weekend or the highlight of...
Well, before we go there, let's just say on that note that Ben just talked about, did you notice it? Like, did you see sulfurs hatching? Were you over there? Were you like observing hatches in the afternoons? Like,
oh yeah. So I was
what he's saying, like, did it check out, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I caught me and the boat caught every fish we caught that weekend on sulfur mayfly emerging patterns. And so I actually went back and listened to his episode before going out this weekend. I was like, all right, what do I need? What do I need to do? What flies do I need? What do I need for my leader setup and tippet and all that stuff? And literally, like, by his playbook, ran the plays and caught the biggest trout I've ever caught. So I'll give you the story.
And give me the story.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
actually, this is good because this was this last weekend, and we were like talking about it. You send me the picture, and I'm like, holy cow, that's an amazing fish. I know it's your personal best because we've obviously been fishing together for as long as we've been fishing. And but I was like, don't tell me. Like, let's tell it on the podcast.
Yeah, this is true. You've never heard this.
So this is the first time I'm actually hearing it. And Daniel, you as well. We've never heard this.
Yep.
So I'll give you the full story. We can edit out any length or piece we need to, but we decided to take my little sister and little brother and my wife to the White River all for the first time.
Amazing.
And so my wife had never been out there. We gone to the Beaver Tail waters and wherever else, but she's never made the trip over to Cotter. And
she's pretty fishy. I mean, she catches good fish wherever she goes.
She is. It's really, having a kid and all of that, it's hard to dedicate like multiple days to it kind of thing. So went that way, and my little sister had never fly fished before, and my brother had only with me a couple of times. Like, I bought him a rod for Christmas, 2 years ago. And before we left, he goes, I don't have any fly line on my reel. It's like, okay, great. So I got you this rod, didn't get you the reel. Now we have to go get you the...
So it's just been
the
sitting
line.
somewhere in a
Oh,
closet.
yeah, he's not used it, which is fine. And we get out there and get in the water, fish the first couple of runs. I made the stupid boater decision to try to go through a really skinny stretch while rowing.
Yeah.
With the jet prop still down. Now, not as detrimental as if you had like a prop motor.
Yeah. Sure.
But I didn't pull it out of the water. It's like, it's deep enough, we're fine.
Yeah.
Hit a rock and bust the pin that puts the motor from, neutral forward reverse. Like, completely obliterated it.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we were downstream from the boat ramp at this point. And
can't get back up.
yeah, we're like, crap.
Which we've been there before.
We've done that. Yeah.
Different story.
I'm super wigged out. Little brother's helping me out. His name's Jacob. I'll just call him that from then on.
Name drop.
Yeah, and my wife and little sister they're like, what's the big deal? We have oars. It's like, no, we're downstream. We're screwed.
We're not rowing this.
We're not rowing this thing.
Upstream.
So we end up figuring out how to get it into neutral, get the engine started. Then as it's running, we tie a rope through the piece that you have to hold down to keep it in forward. End up tying the rope down, kick it in forward, and just hightailing it back to the boat ramp. Drive to Lowe's, buy a pin, and we just totally rigged it at this point. I mean, I'm using like hardware store stuff to make the boat work, but it worked.
Yeah.
So I got it running again.
All right.
So we're finally on the water this time after not catching any fish and screwing up the boat. It's like, I mean, it was amateur hour, and I felt like an idiot because I'm the guide of the weekend, right? It's like, I'm going to show you all my favorite place in the world. I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm going to operate the boat. Like, I'll just row, no big deal.
Everything's riding on
you.
you.
First thing we do, I screw up the boat, and I've never done that before. So we're finally in the water. Little sister catches her first trout on a fly rod. Good rainbow.
Great rainbow.
Great
For
rainbow.
a first fish.
Oh yeah, get it in the boat. We fish from 2:00 till dark. I mean, like, they're literally pulling out at dark.
That's a long
to
day.
go get pizza. So next morning we go and
Did you go to Neema's?
oh yeah, went
Yeah.
to Neema's. And
So good.
Great
dude, it's
spot.
like world class pizza or
Great
something.
Spot.
or so they say on their website.
Oh, that's
you can never,
I
can't believe
believe
everything
it.
on the internet, but it's pretty
believe
good.
it.
No, they did. They won like a second place world championship trophy from a pizza competition. Which would
Really?
Which is nuts.
I want to go to a pizza competition.
Now I want to go to Neema's.
Oh,
I got really
you not
hungry.
had it?
No, I have. I've always had it at actually, it's only been when I've gone fishing on the White.
yeah.
And it's so good because you're like so hungry.
Oh, it's
Oh,
close.
yeah.
You're like,
Into
You're
the day.
sunburned. You're
Yeah.
dehydrated.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the
You're
best
ready for
pizza
some
I've
pizza.
ever.
Eat it.
It's heavy though. Like
It's so good, though.
Savory.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
So go get dinner, stay at the little Verbo that we rented, and the next morning, perfect morning. And the decision was we're going to keep fishing the same riffle, or really the same stretch. It's probably half a mile stretch that was producing fish the day before.
Okay.
And this was because I didn't trust my boat to drive any further than that.
Yeah.
And every time we ran through there, we were pulling fish out of it. It's like, why change it?
Why leave?
Like,
Yeah.
we can go look for quote unquote big trout water, big brown water, whatever, but this is working. So
That's that's an old adage that's like I've heard before. Don't leave fish to find fish. Like,
oh, totally.
If you're on them, stay on them. Like, don't leave.
Which that's the beauty of that, Supreme boat out there is you can run it through, kick on the motor, drive it, do it again.
All day long.
Which is what we ended up doing. So we catch some fish in the morning. I end up throwing on a sulfur dry, catching a little brown.
Yeah.
Like it's a year old.
Okay.
It was a small fish. It's like
a
4 inches
fresh fun.
or something. And you know how they get really happy jumping out, catching flies.
Oh,
So caught him, rowing the whole day. We eat lunch, and then I look at my brother. I said, Jacob, you want to row a bit? I want to fish some. And he's like, yeah, I'll row. So row through the same riffle, hook into an 18-inch brown. Running around, get him in the boat. And I was like, I'm good. That's a great fish.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Pumped. I'll row the rest of the day. So I'd fished twice
Yeah.
so far on Saturday. Once to catch the little brown on the dry. The second, hours later after lunch, saying, let me throw one in the water.
Yeah.
So catch that one.
And no rainbows in between that, or
No, I rowed. So everybody else was catching fish.
yeah, right.
Right.
But like when you were fishing,
I fished 3 times and caught 3 browns.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
One 4 inches, one 18,
And
one bigger.
One-
And so get that fish in the boat. I was like, I'm great. Let me row the rest of the day. I do this all the time. I just want to show you all. I just want to be in charge. I want y'all to fish, catch all the fish. So they're catching fish. Maris, my wife, pulls in a good sized brown. Her first brown on the fly rod ever. So caught him on a size 18.
Way to go, Maris.
Hare's ear with a gold bead head. I think she had a copper john drop below it. Took the high fly, and fished for a few more hours. And now it's kind of towards the end of the day, and it's like we got to get out of the water and get home because we all have kids to take care of and jobs to do the next day, kind of thing. And so we go back to the top of this run, the same run that we've been doing. I'm not kidding, the whole day. That's all we've been doing is fishing this stretch. And I was like, you know what? I want to do it one more time. Y'all been catching a lot of fish.
Yeah.
Let me get one last fish in the boat.
A send off, if you will.
Yeah. And Jacob was like, let him take it over. And he gets behind the oars. And as we're rowing through really my favorite little pocket of water, because there's good structure and it's fast and it's slow and it's all the things you hope to get for a nice fish. Uncanny. He says, man, Kyle, the last time I rode you through here, you caught a big brown. As soon as he said that, indicator went under, hook set.
Oh my gosh.
Like, perfect.
Oh my goodness.
And those don't happen all that often. You know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was just joking. Like,
Yeah,
hey, man, last time I rode you through here, you caught a big brown. Saying, like, you've already outfished me.
Right.
Like, don't do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And how many times do you say that on a stretch too?
Oh,
you
yeah.
say something like that, and,
And
it's
then it happens.
or it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Like it could happen all day long. And you
For
can say
sure.
silly stuff like
Well, and we kept noticing too, if somebody would get a fish, then it's like the person at the front of the boat would get a fish. Like doubles kept happening.
that. Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's just you're in the right drift, like you figured it out, so
Maybe
it
going
works.
over a pod. Of
Maybe that,
fish.
but it was. We just kept joking about the rule of twos, or the rule of doubles.
Yeah.
Like everything's happening in doubles. Anyway, indicator dives. I set the hook, and within a second of fighting this fish, I'm already telling the whole boat, "This is a really good fish," because I could just tell.
Yeah.
And it was so big that in the run, the boat just kept going downstream, and my fly line is zipping out towards, upriver, I guess,
He's
because we're
running
going
up.
downriver. And like not moving at all.
Oh.
Oh yeah. At one point, Maris goes, "I think you're hooked on the bottom."
Yeah.
I said, "Babe, I promise I'm not hooked on the
Like,
bottom.
don't say that to
I
me."
can feel it. I know the difference between a bottom and a fish,
Yeah.
but like this is a big fish."
Yeah.
And so it comes towards the boat. Now we can tell like this is a big fish, so I'm reeling as fast as I can. We see it at one point,
Yeah.
and Maris, my wife, goes, "Oh, that thing has to be at least 20." And I said, "This thing's a lot bigger than 20."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because I just caught one 18 and
Yeah.
gotten to where I can judge him, kinda, not
Yeah.
perfect, but I could tell this was a nice
You just
fish.
got that feeling.
And so
Are you trying to get it on the reel at this point? Like,
yeah, which I know you're not supposed to do, but
well, I mean,
I didn't want my fly line to
big
get caught in
fish.
something and screw it up later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got him to the reel and get him close to the boat, turns and runs, close to the boat, turns and run, dives. I'm talking close to a 15-minute fight,
Yeah.
which I
Holy
hate to
cow.
do on a fish that size because
Yeah.
you want to get him in quick.
Yeah.
But I'm fishing 4X tippet on a size 18 hook. And I had a dropper that was
Tiny.
smaller.
Yeah.
So I was worried he was on
And you
that.
don't even know what he's on at this point.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And get to the deep water. At this point, I can see him just diving and swimming. And I'm freaking out. Like my little sister is making fun of me the whole time.
Yeah.
Like anytime I say something, she's like mocking me back. Because she
Yeah.
starts casting and I was like, "Do not cast in the water."
Stop
And
it.
she looks at me, she's like, "Do not cast in the water." And I was like, "No, for real.
Like, this is everything. Nobody
Yeah,
moves.
it's like if you cast and hit my line or
Oh
something,
my
like all the, I'm
gosh.
playing all the variables in my head.
Yeah. Her hooking your line and
For sure.
tugging it out.
And I didn't say this earlier. I'd watched Maris make a few just super missed net jobs on like little rainbows that I kind of start giving her grief. And I was like, "Babe, if I ever hook into a big brown, I don't want you netting the fish." So now she's giving me grief.
Oh, man.
She's like, "Do you not want me to net this
She's like,
fish?"
"I'll go sit
You know?
down.
Yeah.
I'm not helping you."
She's like, "Maybe I hit it right in the head." Just like everybody's giving me crap, which I actually think was really helpful because
Yeah,
I
you're-
wasn't stressed the whole time.
Yeah, you're
I
kinda
could have been.
joking him.
So she's on the net, brother's on the oars, Macy starts filming, and I asked Jacob, "Hey, just row to those shallows," because there's kind of a big gravel bar,
Mhm.
and it's like, if you can just bank the boat, I can get out. I've been fighting him long enough now. He's not going to run me up and down the river. We
Yeah.
need to get him in a net.
Yeah.
And banks us on. I jump out. Maris jumps out barefoot in the rocks with the net and starts trying to chase this fish around. And eventually we get to where she's right by the fish. I can't see it. I just start backing up towards the bank as
Yeah.
slowly as I can,
Right.
just trying to drag it to the shallow. Because if we could get him shallow, we could net him without him diving.
Yeah.
And finally get it shallow. She nets it, and she picks it up out of the water, and it's big enough that like the net is bending under the weight of it. Like she can't hold it out as
Yeah.
far as it was. And then we all start freaking out.
Oh my god.
And get it on the scale, get some pictures. Landed a 26-inch, I don't know how many pounds, but fat
insane
brown trout.
Holy cow.
And yeah, we're looking at it, and the whole time I'm telling everybody like, I may never catch a fish like this
Yeah,
again.
you guys don't understand.
I'm so glad y'all were here, and it was hilarious, you know, in hindsight, because I had not fished. Like I had not been
It was
fishing.
your third.
my third time to fish.
Yeah.
And hooked into that thing and kept telling everybody like, this is not normal. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm not this good of a fisherman
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all. Like I'm not this good of a fly fisherman like whatsoever.
I assume you're
It
on
just worked.
the same rig as what they were fishing too, like
Oh, I mean,
throughout the day.
Jacob was fishing my rod half the time
Yeah.
because he would get a tangle or something. I was like, just put it down, grab mine.
Yeah.
So like the exact same thing.
Wow.
Yeah. I rigged everybody up. Same depth, same flies, same everything.
Insane.
Because it was going to work.
Yeah.
And it had worked. And so, yeah, didn't do anything different. Just had it in the right spot at the right time, and he took it.
Amazing, dude.
And
26-inch brown.
got some pictures, released him, swam away really healthy. We watched for a while, making sure he's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
He fought the whole time. There was no like, you know how you can tell like this fish might be kind of screwed.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
Yeah.
It was it was textbook, and now reliving it is more fun, maybe even than playing it or than actually playing the fish at the time because
Yeah.
I was so stressed.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah. You're like locked in.
Yeah.
Nothing is fun. You're just
no,
like,
it's I have to get
catch
this fish in to the
Yeah.
boat. So yeah, Ben's episode worked for me.
That's amazing. You know what?
He helped. I listened on the way
Shameless
down
plug
there,
for the Ozark podcast. Listen to Ben's episode. and
Truly.
you might catch a 26-inch.
and yeah, I'm saying that as the guy who was a part of the episode.
You're right. Yeah.
But And it worked.
Man, that's crazy. What size rod were you using? Were you on a 5-weight?
5-weight.
Man,
5-weight floating line. Yeah.
that's amazing. And what was the fly?
The fly was a size 18 hair's ear
Hare's ear
with a bead head,
with a bead head.
Yep.
And barbless.
barbless.
So it
Yeah,
popped,
we're in the catch and release area.
and it popped right out of his mouth.
Yep. Hook set right at the top of the mouth.
That never ceases to amaze me how big of a fish you can catch on such a small. I mean,
Tiny.
That's a size 18, Daniel. Like it's like almost like a grain of
It's
rice.
pretty small.
Like, yeah, it's tiny. You can't see it on the video, but it's like that.
It's like a long
On
grain of
YouTube.
rice.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
it's a wild grain.
Wild grain. It's like a pasta noodle that broke off at the end.
That's insane, man. What a great day. And,
Yeah.
and honestly, just like a perfect way to show off the White River
Mhm.
to a couple people who have never been over there before.
Oh, yeah. No, it was awesome. It was awesome. I hope to do it again someday. But that's a fish of a decade, so
Absolutely. Yeah,
You
we
know,
were just talking about
talk to me in my late 30s and see if I've done it again.
to put that in perspective. I mean, we've been fishing together ever since college, and that's like what 7-8 years,
Mhm.
and never caught a fish like that. So yeah, I mean that's a
Yeah, because we were late
Beyond
in
trophy
college
fish.
when we started.
even you may not catch one of those ever again. I mean, hopefully so, but
I'll be over there enough. We'll
That's a
see.
huge
see what I can
fish.
tangle with.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was sweet.
That's cool. All right, should we move on to our next clip?
Yeah. Which one is this one?
We've got next on the mic. This is from Clayton's episode. It's talking smallmouth, specifically on the Kings, but this applies broadly to the Ozarks in general. And we were actually on the Kings with him this day, and he invited us out there to kind of show us some of the techniques he was talking about. So here's a clip from Clayton.
If I'm waiting, well, really, even if I'm in a boat. Either way, I want my fly line to go at a 45-degree angle downstream. I'll strip it and just kind of let that current swing it down under me. You can keep your line tight and you can just twitch your rod the whole time. You can let line out as you go and cover more water. You can strip it all. There's so many things you can do. It's not something that you need somebody to teach you how to do in order to have success doing it your first time out.
This last week, I was out just fishing on a little creek by my house, and I was experimenting with throwing downstream further, straight across, a little bit upstream, letting it get deeper.
Yep.
Swinging around, kind of letting that fly turn and have that
Mhm.
little wiggle
Yeah.
right
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end. It's so easy to go out there and do that.
Yeah,
Just play with
100%.
it.
I'll do everything I need to do with my wrist. The big key for smallmouth, upstream attitude. So you want that fly kind of facing upstream the whole time. And then you want pauses. When that fly pauses, I want it to have action. I want it to kick where that tail almost comes around and touches the nose of it. That's what triggers those bites.
So he's talking smallmouth tactics on streamers. And it's one of the things that makes, I think, smallmouth fishing so unique as opposed to maybe like trout fishing where you're going to fish wet flies and you're dead drifting and stuff like that. And why I really like this clip is it highlights you have to be so creative because it's not like when you go out and you're fishing for smallmouth that like the same thing is going to work every single time. And on a different day, on a different hour of the same day, it could be different. Things can turn off and turn on in an instant. And that's why it's so important to like switch up your technique, switch up your strategy, get a little bit deeper, go a little bit faster, go a little bit slower. And some of those techniques we learned and, we demonstrated with Clayton and he showed to us. And I mean, it was what we had to do to catch fish that day. It wasn't the most productive day because they just weren't turned on to everything. And so we kind of had to switch it up.
Yeah, I mean, the true smallmouth guys would make fun of the story I just told. Of like, yeah, you fished the same fly that you knew would work for everybody.
Yeah.
And you watched a bobber all day.
Yeah.
And I get it because we went in smallmouth fish and you realize like, no, it's a totally different game.
It
you
is.
You gotta really switch it up and find exactly what they want to eat. And you better have the right depth and the right cover and the right whatever.
Yeah.
And it's gonna work.
It is. I compare smallmouth fishing more to hunting. Not that, and someone who's a trout guide who's he knows his stuff. He may discredit this, but in my experience, like you're going out and you're a lot of times you're sight fishing for smallmouth. You're in these clear, just beautiful limestone creeks. There's a lot of visibility. You can see the fish. They can see you, so they're spooky. So it's a lot more like hunting. You're targeting 1 and 2 fish at a time, one hole at a time. You might do a little bit in trout fishing as well, but I was out on a creek nearby my house the other day, and I think this was right after, maybe right before Clayton's episode that we did, but I essentially all day long I was switching and trying different stuff because I would be on them and then I would stop, and then I'd be on them and then I'd stop. And so one of the things that I did was like halfway through the day, I was like, what if I just tried casting actually upstream a little bit, letting my fly sink down lower in the water because I'm not pulling any pressure on it, getting all the way to the bottom, and then letting that swing out and wait until the very end until it's got that upstream attitude to start stripping. And then boom, as soon as I did that, fish started jumping on the hook. And so it's just like testing that, casting straight out, casting upstream, casting downstream, all of that stuff. You can play with it and be so creative. And you kind of have to be to catch those smallmouth.
Okay, question real quick. As the layman of the podcast, this technique, I'm not a fly fisherman.
Yeah.
It doesn't make I explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Okay.
Because even you talking about it was like, give me the technique simply, but then why you do it with smallmouth.
So I'll try this as best I can.
Yeah.
So he talked about one thing he said was upstream attitude.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
So an upstream attitude is like, and he kind of alludes to it there, but your minnow is facing upstream, which
So it's swimming into the current.
so it's swimming into the current,
Okay.
which is typically what a fish would do. Like what fish do, they're facing upstream. And I'm not a scientist, but I think it's because that oxygen in the water is passing over their gills and through their gills, and just makes it easier for them to breathe.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can swim.
Well, those bait
downstream.
fish do it too because they can change direction quicker than a big fish going upstream. If they're going downstream, they have the water pushing them, which in theory it's like, well, they're going faster, but they're not as maneuverable. So they can't get out of the way of a predator as quickly as they could.
So the point is, it's more natural to have an upstream attitude. It's more natural. That's what, if you're throwing a streamer, which is to imitate some kind of minnow or bait fish, is what a streamer is. That's why it's just trying to be as natural as possible. Because if a fish sees it, maybe that's swimming downstream, it may be less inclined to eat it because it's like, that doesn't really look super realistic. So,
But how do you achieve that? Because in my mind, I'm thinking you throw it, and naturally it's going to be downstream, right? How do you?
So the water will pull it, right? And so if you threw it straight out from you, 90 degrees at the other bank.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And so now the water is going to pull it downstream.
Yeah.
The line is tied to the hook at the top of the hook where the head would be on the bait fish. And so as it swings down, the head now is pointing upstream. So when we talk about swinging,
That makes sense.
that's like what a swing is. You're casting it out and you're letting the water swing it. And that pressure, if you were to just throw it out there and then like cut the line, it would just float and it would flail and flop and all that.
Yeah.
But because it's still tied to that fixed
The
point,
tension is a lot, making
which is
it,
you,
Okay.
it's swinging across the current, the stream. It's covering different grooves and channels and structure across. And then at the very end, as it gets to the end, now it has the full weight of the water current pushing on it, which is similar to you like stripping it in, and it will actually lift the fly up in the water column because your line is on top of the water, and that simulates a rising fish maybe or something like that. So it's there's all these points in between from when you cast and it lands in the water to when you finally start stripping it in.
Yeah, I guess it's when you said swing initially, I'm like, I critique on the guiding community. Sorry, that's just like a fancy way to say it. In my mind, like just let it drift. Like,
Yes.
That's
But
what
like,
it is,
we'll call it swinging. I'm like, that's
You
not
call
really
it
swinging.
you call it swinging if you keep the line with some tension so you can feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it maybe feels like a fish that's like tumbling through the water as it's dying or something, and the fish might grab it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a hinge. It's swinging out to be downstream of you, so that it has an upstream attitude as it comes back to your rod.
So if
Which
you,
is different than drift, letting it drift. It's different than a dead drift, which is
Yeah.
like throwing it out there and trying not to put any tension on it
yeah.
and simulating something that has died or can't swim.
Yeah.
Or as a bug,
Yeah.
a midge or something that just gets pulled around by the water.
Yeah, that technique, when the swinging one, I feel is what most like naive fishermen when they first go out there, even like spin rod, they're like, just throw it out, and then you kind of forget about it, and it's still tensioned,
Yeah.
but it just
Mhm.
drifts.
Right.
Like you do that, not even thinking about it. But in fly fishing, it's a obviously it's a technique. That sounds
Yeah.
dumb to say it's not, but like it's more intentional. I guess like if I did that, it'd be mindless. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, whatever. I forgot about it. But y'all are doing it intentionally for the water column to make it look more natural. All that stuff.
Yeah. And it
That's-
totally
okay.
depends on the situation.
Mhm.
There's sometimes you want to cast it out and start stripping it right back in.
Yeah.
And like you're not just letting it swing and kind of float down. You're like tugging it, you're pulling it, you're making it look like a bait fish that's like running away.
But yes, the difference between casting a bobber with a worm into a pond
Yeah.
and doing what we're doing is you're always engaging with whatever your fly is at the other end of that line,
Yeah.
like at all times. If you're dead drifting it, you're always making sure your fly line is not pulling it forwards or backwards. Like you want it as natural as possible. If you're stripping streamers, you want it to be as natural as possible, but you're always manipulating it. So you
Mhm.
always want tension. You always, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, fly fishing is really subtle.
It's really fun.
Like, yeah, it
So
is,
much
but it's
fun.
just like from the outsider's perspective, it would almost be, I can't compare it to anything, but it's like if someone was really like a master at piano, they'd be able to like define the really like subtle things. Whereas
Mhm,
when you're just
yeah.
learning it, you're like, why did your pinky go on that fourth key?
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's like, that's everything.
Yeah.
I added a 7. That's all of it. Like, I don't even know if I said that right. It's like, I added this like
Yeah.
major ninth or what. And I don't know what that means. But
No,
like,
you're right.
but that's what y'all are doing. And it's just from the observer, I'm like, that y'all are making too much of it. But no, it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it's intentional.
Yeah.
Well, and you learn, like when
Yeah.
we first started out, we didn't understand all the subtleties
Yeah.
at all.
Mhm.
And so we didn't catch very many fish.
Yeah.
Like you throw it out there and you kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
you-
just a feel thing. Like
Yeah.
you have to
It
put the
is.
hours in to kind of be like, oh, even if I described it to you, if you didn't have enough hours put in, you probably wouldn't get it.
Yeah, because you kind of have to put yourself in that situation, like to even like what we just went through, and to visualize the stream, casting it out straight in front
Mhm.
of you, letting the water take it, visualizing it rising in the water column at the end of the drift. Like
Yeah.
all of that kind of has to come with being out there a couple times and being like, oh, when that happens, maybe I should think about this, or
Mhm.
this is what my fly's doing in the water when that happens. If I strip it really fast and I'm using floating line, my fly's going to stay high in the water column. Versus if I throw it out there and put no pressure on it or no tug on it, it's going to drop in the water and go deeper.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of trying to visualize like, what is my fly, doing in the water?
Yeah.
And that just comes with time.
So is that technique like the only one you use for smallmouth?
No,
No.
I would say, there's a lot.
Yeah.
As much as,
That's a whole episode probably.
yeah. I was on Facebook today on one of the fly fishing community groups, and this guy was talking about dead drifting for smallmouth, and he had an indicator bobber,
Mhm.
and he was fishing a helgramite underneath it, which is a bug essentially that smallmouth eat that lives in our streams here. But there's so many different ways. You can even, I caught a fish that one day I was talking about where I threw it straight upstream, and I didn't have an upstream attitude at all, and I caught one. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just random, and then sometimes it is a technique, but
Yeah.
there's 1,000 different ways to.
You
skin
caught a
cat.
big smallmouth in one of those creeks back behind our houses, I don't know, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Dead drifting a jig.
It was
Right?
we were fishing jigs that day, but I ended up catching that one on a double dirty hippie, which I just had a conversation with somebody on
Stevie
Instagram.
Nicks.
Yes, it was. No, it wasn't that day, but it was. We made a YouTube video that had that.
That's great.
Have you
Blooper
seen
in
that?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, it's
I need to.
inside joke. I guess.
I got to pull up this message because I was talking with, who was this? The Sovereign Piscator on Instagram, Randy Hanner, and Randy was talking about his all-time favorite fly. He brought this up before I even said anything. His all-time favorite fly is the double dirty hippie. And I was like, no way. I didn't even know other people knew about that. I'm sure it's probably a pretty popular one, but I was like, that is my all-time favorite smallmouth fly too, because it's the one that I got my personal best on, which was a 18.5-inch smallmouth bass in that little creek.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 1,000 ways to skin a
Okay.
cat with smallmouth, but all right,
Should we play the last one?
let's go.
Last one.
Let's go. And the most controversial one.
Kind of blew up on Instagram.
This one blew up. We're gonna play this one because so a little context. This one was with Peyton Ussery, who Big Pete. He's a taxidermist. He's a honeybee rescuer. He is a crappie guide, and he's kind of like been known as the crappie whisperer
Yeah.
on Beaver Lake for a while. And so we did an interview with him, and great episode. If you're thinking about like, how do I go catch crappie on the lake?
Mhm.
He literally just like walks you through it. And I've talked to a few people who've listened and then gone and caught fish. But this reel that you cut, Daniel, out of the episode, or not out of the episode, but cut from the episode to put on Instagram, blew up, and it got like 60. I think we're at 65,000
Yeah.
views, and we got just a bunch of people followed us from it, and it was because we think it was like pretty controversial.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I remember making it because it was one of those days that it was getting later, typically when I post, and I was like, crap, I have to get a reel out. So I chopped it up probably in like 5 minutes. And like
Impressed.
5 minutes,
go.
put the subtitles on it, and was like, oh, whatever. And I didn't check. I just didn't go back to it. And I think you sent in a text to the group. Was like, guys, the Instagram is blowing up. And I was
Blowing
like,
up.
must be from an old reel or anything. And then
Yeah.
it's like, everyone has an opinion about this.
Yeah.
I was just doing it because I was like, this seems like a charitable thing from Peyton to do it. I wasn't like, I don't think any of us
being a really
yeah.
good guide.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
any of us were like, yes, all guides should do this.
No.
But some people took it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
I'm
gonna.
excited to read some comments after we hear.
So I'm
this
gonna
one.
play it. I just checked. So I checked yesterday. It had like 64,000. It has 67,000 now.
Okay.
So it's still getting plays,
Yeah.
and it was to the point we were getting like it was like 100 followers every single day.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
I always go by, if you don't catch at least one limit, which is 15 on Beaver Lake, then you don't pay. I've seen guides come in and, their customers don't catch nothing and they want full payment. And I'm just like, it's hard for me to swallow. I mean, I'll take you out and take you for a boat ride. Yeah. I could have done that.
Yeah, we could just hang
That's
out.
easy money. That's what I say.
I mean, there's no loss, right? Like if it doesn't work out and you don't have a great day, you're not gonna pay.
I'll come here and mount a deer and make my money. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have something to take home and eat.
And it's fun. I'll just come out of the gate and say we are not suggesting that every guide offers that policy or you should expect that policy from your guide.
You definitely shouldn't.
You definitely shouldn't.
But if you're fishing with Big Pete,
Yeah.
Except if you're fishing
Yeah.
with Peyton Ussery.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is why we wanted to highlight that, because I have never heard any other guide offer that before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's not even like catch one fish. It's like
catch your limit,
your limit, which is 15 fish.
which is saying I'm so confident
Yeah.
in getting you on these crappie that if we don't do it, we're good.
You don't pay me.
Don't pay
Dude,
me.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
he's a master. Like to be able to do that. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
that would be the equivalent of someone being like, I'm thinking like music industry would be like, this song doesn't go top 5. I don't take any royalties from it.
That's
it's
crazy.
like, excuse me, it's like I'm that confident that I
Yeah.
can make
Yeah.
a hit.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think about that, I mean, so let's get into it a little bit. If you think about that, if that were to happen in Big Pete's boat, he has now, assuming he's, you're going to be fishing hard, right? Like he's taking you out there. It's the full thing. You're out there probably all day. Like that's a full day without catching a whole lot of fish or any fish. And he's probably put in an 8-hour day, maybe even longer because he's getting up early. And to have nothing, that's a full day's worth of work.
And lunch, right?
Lunch, gas for the boat,
Lunch,
the truck,
gas. I mean,
Yep, all of it. His time and just
Time,
in
like-
general.
lures.
To not get
Yeah.
paid is like, wow, that's bold.
I wonder how often it has happened for him. I mean, because it has to.
I'm gonna
with him.
guess not often.
Oh, not very, but like it
I don't
probably
know.
like
That's a good question.
3 out of 100.
I should text him right now.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, Peyton, how's that?
Anyway, yeah. Do you want to read some of the comments? The
Yeah.
ones that are not horrible.
Yeah, this is just like inside listener info because we know the people commenting, they don't care about us.
No, they don't.
What
They don't
we're
even.
doing.
They don't come and listen to the
Yeah,
podcast.
they don't know what's going
probably.
on.
Some of them were, not from the Ozarks.
Yeah, but it was hilarious.
Some of these people who are commenting, they're not from here, the Ozarks. They probably never heard of us before. And, you always get the people commenting just to comment and say
They also
something.
think that we're like vouching for this.
Yeah.
That they assume it's like, oh yeah.
Wasn't that the internet?
That is, yeah.
Like if you make a statement, it's like they believe this with the entirety of their being.
They're like, no, we just actually put it
It's
out
like
there.
Yeah.
no such thing as gray area. Everything's black and white.
Yeah, it's like you stand behind this
Yeah, that is
wholeheartedly.
the internet.
Truly.
And you know what? I'll even say this. Some of these people make a really good point. Like,
Yeah.
They maybe articulate in a way that I wouldn't, but but they make a good point and like stuff that I'm like, yeah, I get that. So here's one. This was a pretty maybe let's start with a hot one. So here's one from a guy. What an insane expectation of a guide in the fishery. I average a dozen fish per trip and 0 to 1 skunk per season out of hundreds of clients a year. And many guides far better than myself have a skunk rate over 15%. You're not paying for fish. You're paying for help, experience, and the best opportunity of catching a fish. And if every guide guaranteed you'd limit, there wouldn't be a single fish left in the effing lake. In the lake.
Fair.
Most guides run 5 to 7 days a week. No fishery can handle that. Less stupid stuff, please.
Wait, is that okay? Let's debate that.
Okay, here we go.
If every guide caught limit, there would be no fish left. Dude, the crappie specifically, that's not true.
I don't think that's true for Beaver Lake. I think depending on where you go, the fishery, every fishery is different.
Yeah, but it also has different regulations. That's what they have a limit.
Exactly. Like the Game and Fish has put in that limit for a reason. Sure, everyone's not going to catch that every time they go out. But to some extent, like Peyton only guides in the spring. He talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not guiding year round.
Mm-hmm.
And he's guiding at a time when it's like, it's pretty reasonable to think that you're not going to get skunked on a day.
Yeah.
From what he said.
Yeah, you're going to catch the fish.
Yeah. It's like kind of, and what I've heard too after doing the episode is like, if you can't catch spring crappie, like as a guide, like, what are you doing as a guide?
Yeah, you
Like,
shouldn't be a guide.
Maybe you shouldn't be a guide. Like
Yeah.
anybody who owns a boat shouldn't be a guide.
Yeah.
Um,
So that guy's mainly right. I just want to say that he dramatized it a little bit.
yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't
Yeah.
articulate the same
yeah.
with some of the stuff he said, but I get it. Here's another one. It's fishing. A guide doesn't guarantee catching a limit. It should increase your chance of catching fish and just having an enjoyable experience, but that's insane. That's insane to expect someone trying to make a living by guiding, which already isn't a high-paying gig, to not expect payment because you didn't catch as many fish as you wanted. Get your own boat and gas and gear and do it on your own time if you think it's optional to pay a guide. Effing babies.
Yeah, dude, that
So
one.
what's funny about that one is, yeah, if that was us expecting that of a guide, I would
Yeah.
agree with that comment. This is the guide himself saying,
Yeah.
this is my personal
Right.
policy.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a different perspective.
This is what I offer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all guides everywhere should do this, but for me personally, for my business, how I want to run it, this is
Yeah.
how I do it.
That's how he does it.
It's
That's
so
what he
great.
believes.
Maybe he thought that, you and Peyton were like fighting on mic and you were like, I'm not paying.
Yeah.
Like, what did he assume? Because it was like,
I
no,
don't
dude,
know.
this is the guide being like, I'm not going to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, this is.
yeah, like, which my policy is.
Yeah.
Which I said is my response back to it, because I'm not trying to like start anything, but I said, agreed. No one should expect this policy from their guide ever, unless their guide is Big P,
Yeah.
who offers this policy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like, I get it. And I don't, any guide who may listen, like we're not, I'm not hoping that you start offering this or put the expectation on you, because that's totally not fair. And you're right. Like to people who work all day, and just because you didn't catch a fish, like that doesn't mean you shouldn't pay them. Think about if you went to work all day and because you didn't get any work done because maybe you had meetings or like something, you just wasn't a productive day,
Or someone on the other end of an email didn't respond.
Yeah, like you
not getting
couldn't
paid.
and because you didn't get any like actual work done, or you were in a training, right? Like you not get paid. Like that's not, you wouldn't expect that
Yeah.
in your job. I wouldn't expect that. I'd be mad. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever expect a guide.
The good thing about this is the culture for guides has been set. So people are up in arms because they're like, that's ridiculous to expect it.
Yeah.
And it, we're like, yeah, it is.
That's why
Like,
we
thank-
posted
yeah,
about it, because it's
thankfully,
ridiculous.
Even 99.99% of the time, if you go with a guide, unless you're fishing with Peyton,
Right.
you're paying him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should tip him,
Yeah.
even if you
Right.
don't catch much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're there to learn. You're there to figure out new techniques. You're there to, find new water, whatever it may be. But I have a personal story about this.
Okay.
Not for crappie, but
Real quick, before you get in the personal
hear
story,
it.
I think
Mine's
it's
short.
actually hilarious. Like, it's almost a catch-22. Like, if I would have posted, if they don't catch catch the limit, they still have to pay.
Mhm.
The reel wouldn't have done anything,
Yeah,
and we wouldn't be
right. Yeah,
talking
that's
about, and no one would have commented. So it's like you kind of have to put something that's out there
Yeah.
to even get a comment.
yeah.
It has to be a view that's like weird.
That's
But like, we wouldn't be showing that reel and be like, "Oh, dude, yeah, people have to pay for Peyton when he guides." Like,
like,
shoot,
yeah,
that's so crazy.
Duh. That's
Yeah,
what they're
right.
paying for.
Yeah,
I do want to, before you tell your story, I do want to read some of the good comments, because it wasn't all bad. We had a lot of people who were like, wow, that's really cool. This guy said, you don't hear about fishing guides like this guy. Another guy said, I've never had a guide with this kind of perspective. This is definitely rare. There's the one that you like, Kyle. This guy said, paying to catch crappie is wild AF to me. LMAO.
Yeah, dude, that was
I love that one.
He's just like, why are you caying for a guy?
Why are you
to catch
paying for a
crappie?
guy to catch crappie?
And that's
dude,
back
that
to,
guy
like,
should
spring
become a
crappie.
guide.
Yeah,
Maybe, maybe he is. I don't know.
He's feeling himself.
Yeah.
All
No, I
right,
remember-
what's your story?
I remember early on learning how to fly fish. I was still in college. And my granddad offered, I think for my birthday, to pay for a guide to go do a half day or full day or whatever it was. And I think it was a half day. After a half day, we'd not caught many fish. After we bumped it to a full day, so we were in a drift boat. So we called his buddy, who was like, bring the truck another however many miles downstream. And we ended up getting into a few, and I think it was hopper season, so we were a lot of topwater stuff. I fished some streamers, I fished some nymphs, all of that. And I didn't realize that the fishing was bad. Like, I was catching just enough fish to be like, this is great. I'm learning. I've never done this before. I'm learning all this different stuff. We get back to the truck, and he's like, y'all don't have to pay me. That was terrible. All that stuff. And I was like, no, that's the most fun I've had in forever. Like, I was learning how to fly fish.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I was thinking I'm a terrible fisherman. Like, I'm just figuring it all out. We pay him, of course, and tip him, and he's a great guy. And we're like, no, this was awesome. But it was him saying, y'all don't owe me a thing. This was a bad day of fishing. We should have caught a lot more. I came away from the experience going, that was the most fun day of fishing I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe ever, at least on a fly rod, because I was new to the sport and all of that. So with that and with guides and all of it, you probably have a lot of clients who, yes, they can go figure out how to fish. They have a kayak, they have a boat, they have whatever, but they're trying to get into it for the first time. So even paying somebody to learn the technique to then go and refine it over the next however many years that they fish is 1,000% worth your money every single time.
Right.
Agreed.
Totally agree. And you could almost like compare it to like signing up for a class, or like, just because you don't actually produce, if you sign up for a class in like videography, just because at the end maybe you don't have a video that's like going to blow up on YouTube.
Right.
You still learn the techniques, the skills, and something that I have heard other guides offering this, and it's just another take on it. It's kind of this like middle ground, almost a compromise. If you go out and you skunk, some guides will, they won't like ask for a tip, and they'll go ahead and like schedule a new day with you, or offer like another day at a discounted price, just to get you in the boat again and actually get you on some fish. Because most guides, like, they want to get paid and they want to make money, but they also want you to feel like you're walking away with like, I know how to go do this myself. And it's hard to feel that after a day of not catching any fish.
And they want you to leave feeling like you paid for value.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That's kind of a middle ground.
I would, and I'm the exception. I'm just gonna say that I'm the exception. If I hired a guide right now and we didn't catch a single fish, I honestly wouldn't care. But if I learned how to fish, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's worth. I just paid for a $500 lesson. Cool. From a dude who does this every single day.
Right.
But I'm probably the exception. Like, I think we interviewed someone, and they were like, you hate the clients that are like, I don't care if we don't catch a fish. I'm like, dude, I legit would not care.
Yeah.
Like
You just want to go out.
like
and
I
learn.
wouldn't care. I'm like, it'd be fun to be on the water, and like we'd get to talk and drink a few beers and like learn how to fly fish, because my friends they won't teach me. So
Well, I'll say if you don't care how to catch a fish, you should come fish with us, because you can't catch them with us, apparently.
just with Veet, I just
We've made
can't.
sure that you can't.
In Veet's defense.
Veet will catch them all around you
Yeah, that's
and make fun of you the whole
I'm
stuff.
putting stuff on your fly.
yeah.
that you
Veet's
don't
like
know
he like
about.
catches one over here. He's like, yeah, Daniel, throw like over there.
He's like,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
man, this is a bumblebee pattern. It works great.
Yeah,
wink,
go
wink.
Go pick
check
up a
out
rock
that-
from the bank. You'll catch a lot of really cool fish.
Yeah, go check out that 2-inch deep water over there. That's going to be really good.
Really?
A lot
Oh,
of structure in
interesting.
there.
Okay,
Those
okay.
pebbles.
He's fishing backwards into those eddies that get all cruddy.
Yeah.
Like dead water forever.
Upstream attitude. Upstream attitude.
You got it, Dan.
You're fishing for trout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big Pete.
Big Pete.
Yeah, it was a fun
So
one.
yeah, that blew up, and I know I was talking to him. He's already had a few people reach out and like, I want to go fishing with you, because like it really is. Especially, I mean, it's good publicity for him because that's part of his business model. It's
Mhm.
like he's saying that as kind of like a marketing ploy in a way of like, book me and I will get you on fish.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is really cool,
Definitely.
and he's confident enough to say that. So those are the clips.
That's
man.
it, man.
That's what we got. That's all we had. So I hope you guys like this format and kind of revisiting some recent episodes, kind of highlighting some stuff, and then diving into a little bit more of like the topics and stuff like that. I thought it was fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Oh, I
don't
love
know
it.
About y'all.
I think, I think too, if as you're listening to this, like we're all friends. Like we enjoy getting on the mic together
Speak
and
for
sharing
yourself.
stories and
Okay.
thanks, Dan, all that kind of stuff. So
Hater.
classic, like everything else, we won't do this every time,
No.
but it is really fun to revisit some episodes, some of the things we've learned, some of the things Daniel's listening to but not taking in fully, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then also getting to share some of our own stories is always a good time too.
Yeah.
No, it is. And even like highlighting, putting it to use, some of the stuff that we learned. Like you talking about what you learned from Ben and then going to put that to use.
Yeah, the only reason we scheduled this was Kyle immediately was like, that's a huge fish. We're going to go talk about it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, fine.
have to.
Like,
Yeah.
We don't need to find a guest this week because I've never caught a fish like this and now we have. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, seriously.
These are also conversations we're having off mic.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And another caveat, we don't agree with all the people we interview. We have different opinions because we're getting information from a lot of different sources. So this is kind of our chance to like kind of pull the curtain back and be like, yeah, we actually
That's what we think.
respectfully disagree with this person. This is actually a different way to think about it. Or heck yeah, that's awesome. We're all in on that. And we don't know if y'all care about our opinions, but we're going to give them.
Hey, we have a podcast.
Not all the time, but like every once in a while. So.
Everything you hear on a podcast is trustworthy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like the internet.
Especially
It's
this
all
one.
true. Yes.
No, that's why we try to get voices that are not just ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is like we try intentionally to reach out to people who are credible. They have some position
sure.
of authority. Because I do not agree with people who just because you have a platform you can say whatever you want and it's supposed to be fact or true. I am totally against that, and so
Totally.
we do our best to try to get people on who have a voice, a credible voice. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, our entire podcast is made up of people's perspective, different people's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is fact and it's biology and it's science, and then some of it is more on like the opinion side and it's how they do it, it's what their position on it is. So there's always some gray area with that stuff.
Definitely.
But hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure you share it with a buddy, hunting buddy, fishing buddy. I don't care. Somebody, nobody. Just send it to somebody, and we'll see you on the next one.